Good morning. My name is Neil Heslin. Jesse Lewis was my son. He was 6 years old. He was a victim in Sandy Hook. I'm here today to just hopefully get the word out that changes have to be made. I'll tell you a little bit about Jesse. He was a boy that loved life, lived it to the fullest. His mother and I are both separated. He spent an equal amount of time with both of us. And he was my son, he was my buddy, he was my best friend. And I never thought I'd be here speaking like this, asking for changes and on my son's behalf. And I never thought I'd be laying him to rest. The happiest day of my life was the day he was born. He's my only son, my only family. And the worst day of my life was the day I had when this happened and I buried him. And I was raised in a household with guns and weapons. In fact, I started skeet shooting when I was 8 years old. I was educated on the safety of guns. My father was an avid hunter. I was hunting ever since I was 8 or 10 or 12 years old with him. I'm not a gun owner now, and I think a lot of changes need to be made as for the safety of handling the guns, regulations of the guns, handguns, long arms, whatever you want to classify as an assault weapon. Something like happened in Newtown. Something like happened in Newtown, Canada.
Just a moment, please, sir.
Have your attention, please. There has been a fire reported in the building. Please proceed to the nearest exit and leave the building.
Back now that we
Thank you. We're ready to continue now. Thank you, Mr. Heslin.
Now that we all survived the fire here. Getting back to where I left off, I was raised with firearms and hunting and skeet shooting. I'm not in favor of banning guns or weapons. I'm in favor of, would like to see a lot stricter regulations, being on a federal regulation and on a state level. There's a lot of facts, a lot of things that should be changed to prevent what happened. Mental health being a big part, going back to the basics, better parenting. When I was raised to respect my parents and my elders, not to kill my mother while she was sleeping. It's just shocking what happened in Newtown. And I look at these weapons that were presented by the state police here. The so-called assault weapons, meaning military style or military look, and you can categorize it or classify them however you want. I still can't see why any civilian, anybody in this room, in fact, needs weapons of that sort. You're not going to use them for hunting, even for home protection. Semi-automatic or an automatic weapon is one of the most inaccurate weapons out there. The sole purpose of semi-automatic, those AR-15s or the AK-47s, is put a lot of lead out in the battlefield quickly, and that's what they do. And that's what they did at Sandy Hook Elementary School on the 14th. That wasn't just a killing, that was a massacre. Those children and those victims were shot apart. And my son was one of them. And this picture I brought with me today was taken 6 years ago. It was my son when he was 6 months old and myself. That was my mother's Christmas gift that year. My mother passed away 5 years ago. Ironically, on the same day Jesse perished. I just hope some good can come out of this and changes for mental health. The ban of assault weapons. I just can't fathom why any of us need that in our society or in our home. Why do we need 30-round magazines or cartridges? There's no one in this room here that's got the capability, mentally or physically, to take on 20 people or 15 people where you would need 30 rounds of ammunition. There's no reason for it. And I hope everybody in this room can realize that and see that. And there's a lot of people here that are in favor of guns and not changes. But if they open their eyes and their minds and supported changes, and it would give them more rights if it was on a federal regulated program. It would give them more rights to take hunting weapons in and out of different states. I think both sides really need to work together to pass regulations that work for everybody. And I'm never going to have my son back. I accepted what happened that day when it happened. I didn't like it. I couldn't change it. He wouldn't want me to sit around crying or feeling bad. I'm out trying to do something to help him and to help the other victims. That school was a beautiful place. It was like Mayberry, going to that school in the morning. I never saw anybody that wasn't happy there. And we dropped him off that morning at 9:04. I saw the clock. I walked him into that class, to the school. He gave me a hug and a kiss. He said, and I gave him a hug and a kiss back. And he said, goodbye. He said, I love you. And he said, I love Mom too. We were supposed to go back and make gingerbread houses that day. We never made it. 20 minutes after that, my son was dead. And there's no reason for it. There's no reason that Adam Lanza's mother should have had those weapons in that home, locked up or not locked up, with a child that apparently had mental issues. I think a lot of it goes back to mental issues. Years ago when we had Bellevue and Fairfield Hills, people were committed. You never heard of crimes like this. And I think that's a big thing that they have to focus on, along with gun control. And a place to start is banning these weapons. There's no reason for these. There's no place on the street for them. Another argument that people have is, well, the criminals will have these weapons. You're never going to take the weapons away from criminals or drug dealers or people on the streets that have them. You have to make very strict penalties for that. And not a slap on the wrist, not probation. You've got to make mandatory, harsh jail terms for those people. If they're convicted of committing a crime with a weapon, whether it be a robbery, a holdup, an assault, there's got to be strict penalties. You're not going to banning the firearms, you're not going to get them away from the criminals. But we don't need these weapons on the street or in our homes. We don't. And I ask everybody to think about it, and everybody in this room, whether you're in favor of guns or in favor of banning them, to try to work together and come up with reasonable changes that work. And I think one place to start is with the regulations on background checks, thorough background checks for everyone who purchases a weapon. Resales have to have thorough background checks. I think a ban on high-capacity magazines and assault-type weapons needs to be in place. More strict guidelines on people who own them, such as the state has and the federal government has with machine guns. I just can't believe what happened in Newtown. We dropped Jesse off at 9:04, and an hour and a half later, I was back at that school, and it was like a military installation. SWAT team members, families in hysterical, state police from all over the state, FBI. It was unbelievable. Students there looking to be reunited with their parents, parents looking for their children. I was looking for my son. I was looking for his classroom. They were never to be found. And what some of the surviving students' parents told me, my son Jesse yelled, "Run, run now." He was in Miss Soto's class. 10 of the students survived. My son wasn't one of them. I hope those words helped those children survive. And I just hope that some change can come out of it, and that's positive and good. Newtown's a broken community. I see the people up there. They're heartbroken. They're heavy hearts. I had the opportunity to go into Chalk Hill School where these children are, and it wasn't a good feeling. It was a very sad feeling. And it's something that should have never happened. Getting back to these high-capacity weapons, we're not living in the Wild West. We're not a third world nation. We have the strongest military in the world. We don't need to defend our homes with weapons like that. And I just hope that everybody in this room, as I said before, can support change. Ban assault weapons and high-capacity clips and magazines. And that's a step in the right direction. And support federal changes and regulations. And I don't know how many people have young children or children, but just try putting yourself in the place of Ahmed or these other parents that are here, and having a child that you lost. It's not a good feeling. It's not a good feeling to look at your child laying in a casket, or looking at your child with a bullet wound to the forehead. It's a real sad thing. You know, I ask if there's anybody in this room that can give me one reason or challenge this question, why anybody in this room needs to have one of these assault-style weapons or military weapons or high-capacity clips. And now one person can answer that question or give me any.
Second Amendment shall not be infringed.
All right.
Please, no comments while Mr. Heslin is speaking, or we'll clear the room. Mr. Heslin, please continue.
Anyway, we're all entitled to our own opinion, and I respect their opinions and their thoughts. But I wish they'd respect mine and give it a little bit of thought, and realize that it could have been their child that was in that school that day. And I don't think of any of the massacres or shootings in this country. I believe they all happen with an assault weapon or assault-style weapon, high-capacity clips. Aurora, Columbine, Sandy Hook, and I believe they were all purchased legally too. Not to say that mass assaults like that couldn't have happened in another way. But you need to cut down on the guns, those type of guns. There's no reason for it, and they cause destruction, they cause massacre, and that's what they were made to do. And I just asked that they could place a ban on them. That's all I have to say at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Heslin, and thank you for having the fortitude to come and be here today in the wake of the terrible loss of your beautiful son, Jesse. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.